a town that feared him, a woman who had nothing to lose. One moment of impossible courage on a dusty street, and two broken people began to put each other back together, piece by piece, without even realizing it. This is not just a love story. It's the story of what happens when the right person believes in you before you believe in yourself. This channel is dedicated to the soul of the Old West, to cowboys who loved deeply and protected fiercely, to the tenderness between parents and children, to the neighbors who showed up when it mattered, and to every heart that refused to stop hoping. The people who change our lives most are rarely the ones we expected. They're the ones who chose to stay when everyone else walked away. If this story reminded you that people can change, like, comment and share it forward. Subscribe and ride with us, because the best stories are still ahead.
Cole's scarred hands tightened on the leather reins. "Get out of the way," he said, his voice low and flat. She did not move. "I cannot," she whispered as the whole town watched, holding its breath. He leaned forward in his saddle, studying her. She was far too young to have that much exhaustion carved on her face. "Are you drunk?" he asked. "No," she swallowed hard. "Just out of options." He did not know her, but it was clear she knew exactly who he was. "You do not ask questions," she said, taking a small step closer. "And you do not care what this town thinks." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "You are the only one who might say yes." That is when Sheriff Garrett pushed through the crowd. "Miss, I am going to need you to step away from Mr. Hawkins." He put a hand on her arm, and she flinched like she had been burned. Cole saw it plain as day. Her fear was not of him. "Sheriff!" Cole's voice cut like a knife. "Let her go!" He looked down at the woman. "What is your name?" "Amelia Carter. I came from Philadelphia to be married," she explained quickly. "But the man took every dollar I had and disappeared 3 days ago." Her shoulders squared up. "The hotel owner says he will have me arrested for fraud by tonight if I do not pay." She turned on the sheriff, her voice filled with fire. "Can you get my money back from a man who does not exist? Can you give me anywhere to go?" The crowd was silent. Cole swung down from his horse. "You know what people say about me?" he asked quietly. "Yes, but I do not have a choice." Cole looked back at Amelia. "Can you ride?" She gave a quick nod. "Then get on." A ripple of shock went through the onlookers, but Cole paid them no mind. He swung back into the saddle and held out a hand to her. He pulled her up behind him, and she wrapped her arms tight around his waist, trembling. "Hold on," was all he said. They rode out of Redwood Valley, leaving the town in a cloud of dust and stunned silence. They rode for 20 minutes before he said they were headed to his ranch, about another hour away. As they traveled through the rugged land, Cole asked suddenly, "What was his name?" "Thomas Brennan," she answered. "At least that is what he told me." Cole asked for a description. Tall, with brown hair, and a scar on his left hand. "Why?" Amelia asked. Cole's reply was cold as iron. "If he ever shows his face in Redwood Valley again, I want to know who to look for." Her breath caught in her throat. "Men who steal from women are cowards," he stated simply. "And cowards need to learn their place." For the first time in days, a little of the weight lifted from her. His ranch came into view at sunset, tucked in a valley 8 miles from anywhere. The log house looked solid, built to last. Cole dismounted and helped her down. Her legs felt unsteady as he went to see to the horse, leaving her alone in the yard. The setting sun was beautiful, but the profound silence was terrifying. She was completely alone with a man the whole world was afraid of. "Are you coming inside?" Cole's voice called from the lamplit doorway. Amelia took a deep breath and walked into the clean, simple house, straight into the unknown. The cabin was just one room with a kitchen corner and a bed. "You take the bed," Cole said, grabbing a blanket for the worn-out sofa. "I don't sleep much." He pointed toward the pantry. "Eat what you need, and bolt this door behind me." He was already heading back out. The horses need seeing to. Use that bolt. Don't open it for anyone but me. How will I know it is you, she asked. Because anyone else ain't gonna knock. And he was gone. Amelia slid the heavy bolt, then finally let the tears come. She woke to the smell of coffee, the whole terrible yesterday rushing back in an instant. She sat up fast. Cole was at the stove, his back to her. Water's still warm in the basin if you want it, he said without turning. He handed her a tin cup of coffee that was strong enough to wake the dead. If you are staying, you are working. Ranch work starts at dawn. She took the cup. I told you I would work. Talking and doing are two different things. Then try me, she challenged. Something flickered in his eyes. Finish your coffee. Meet me in the barn. In the small mirror, she saw a wreck of a woman, but she was alive. That was a sight more than she could say for yesterday. The barn held 3 horses, hay, bales, and a whole mess of tools. Cole was already mucking out a stall. Grab a shovel, he said. The horse in the next stall, a massive bay, eyed her hard. That is Thunder, Cole warned. He bites, and I mean it. She ignored him and reached a hand out slow and steady. Miss Carter, you want to lose a finger? Shh, she whispered to the animal. It is all right. Thunder hesitated, then nudged her palm with his nose. Cole just stared, completely stunned. He hates everyone, he said flatly. Amelia stroked the horse's face, a real smile finally breaking through. Maybe he was just waiting for someone who was not afraid of him. She looked at Cole. Sound familiar? For the first time, Cole Hawkins almost smiled. Almost. Get to work, he grunted, but the bite was gone from his voice. By sunset, Amelia was blistered and bruised, but she had not complained once. She fell, she got back up, and she kept trying. That is enough, Cole finally said, taking a bucket from her hands. Go on inside. He watched her limp toward the house and wondered what in the hell he was doing. He had built this life to keep folks out, and now he had let in a woman brave enough to look him in the eye and ask for his help. It was a damn fool move, but he could not turn away that kind of desperation. When he came inside, he found her asleep at the table, a plate of beans half-eaten beside her. He knew she was trouble, but she was something else, too. Quiet as a shadow, he lifted her. She felt like she weighed nothing at all. He carried her to the bedroom and laid her on the bed. For 3 more days, they worked from sunup to sundown in near silence. She learned the rhythm of the ranch faster than he ever would have guessed. She even learned that Cole Hawkins was not a man who talked. On the 4th day in the barn, she decided to push him. Can I ask you something? No. Why did you bring me here? He finally turned to face her. This is a place to stay until you can stand on your own 2 feet. Then you go. His voice was flat and final. What if I do not want to leave? The question hung heavy in the air. Cole's eyes narrowed. Everyone leaves, Miss Carter. In my experience, everyone does. He turned back to his work. Do not make this something it ain't. Amelia felt a hot anger rise in her chest. I am just trying to understand. Why help me if you were just going to kick me out? She asked. His answer came out in a rush. Maybe I am tired of being the man everyone is scared of. Maybe for once I wanted to be the person someone ran to for help, not from. Amelia stepped closer, her voice quiet. That is exactly what I needed to hear. He finally looked at her and saw no fear in her eyes. If you were the man they say you are, she said, I would already be gone. But I am still here. Cole just stared at this woman who, in 4 short days, had somehow broken through every wall he had ever built. This is a mistake, he muttered. Fine. You can stay. But we do this my way. You work, you keep to yourself. And if anyone from town asks questions, you tell them we are married. Amelia was stunned. Married? She asked. It is the only way to keep folks from making your life miserable, he said plainly. A quiet arrangement. When you decide to leave, we will just say it didn't work out. Simple as that. She knew he was right. All right, she agreed. Married in name only. And you should call me Amelia, she added, holding out her hand. Cole, he said, taking it. His grip was firm. The deal was made. 3 days later, Sheriff Garrett rode up to the ranch, finding Amelia in the yard. You are on my property, Sheriff. Cole's voice cut through the air, cold as a winter morning. Heard you got married, Cole, Garrett said, his hand resting near his gun. To a woman nobody knows a thing about. He turned his hard gaze on Amelia. I sent a wire to Philadelphia. There is no record of an Amelia Carter. Amelia's heart pounded, but she stepped forward. That is because Carter is my mother's name, she said, her voice steady. I left home after my father, who is a federal judge, threatened to have me arrested for a theft I did not commit. She is my wife, Cole said, stepping between them like a stone wall. That makes her my business, not yours. Now you need to leave my land. After the sheriff rode off, Cole turned to her. What is your real name? He asked. Amelia Rothschild, she confessed. She quickly explained how her father, Judge Harold Rothschild, had tried to cheat her out of what her mother had left her. The jewelry he accused me of stealing was my own mother's pearl necklace. I sold it so I could get away from him, she finished. You should have told me the truth, Cole said, his voice heavy with disappointment. Do not lie to me again. You are Amelia Hawkins now. As he walked toward the barn, she called out, Thank you. He answered without turning around. Protecting you is my job now. That night, she lay awake, wondering if she had made things better or a whole lot worse. His voice cut through the early morning quiet. We need to talk. She knew this was coming. Her powerful father was a storm cloud on the horizon. He wanted you gone, Cole said. But he hates losing anything he thinks is his. So we need a plan. His plan was simple and stunning. We make this marriage real. On paper. Today. Amelia was floored. But he could find the records, Cole nodded. Maybe. But a federal judge chasing his married daughter across state lines is going to raise some eyebrows. It's our best shot. She knew deep down it was the only way. All right. Today. An hour later, riding into Redwood Valley, Amelia felt every single eye in town watching them. By the time they got to the clerk's office, their arrival was already the talk of the town. The clerk, a twitchy little man, went pale when he saw Cole. Mr. Hawkins, he stammered. We're here to make our marriage official, Cole stated plainly, pulling off his hat. This is my wife, Amelia. The clerk's eyes darted between them nervously. It was a private ceremony, Cole said. The clerk wrung his hands. I'm sorry, Mr. Hawkins, but I need witnesses. Without them, I just can't. Just then, a firm voice came from the doorway. I'll witness it. It was Mrs. Pritchard, the school teacher, a woman who feared no one. I saw them. She looked right past Cole to Amelia. I'm doing this for you, child. Every soul deserves a fair shake. She softened her gaze. I know what it's like to need help and find none. Consider this a kindness being paid forward. The clerk cleared his throat. I'll still need one more witness. As if on cue, Dr. Samuel Chen stepped into the office. Heard you might need a hand. Cole's jaw tightened. Doc, you sure about this? People will talk. Dr. Chen just smiled. Let 'em. I've been dealing with talk for 10 years. And just like that, with two of the most unlikely allies in town, they made it official. Cole signed his name, and then Amelia wrote hers. Amelia Marie Hawkins. Outside, a crowd waited with Sheriff Garrett at the front. Cole took Amelia's hand in public for the first time. She's my wife, he announced, his voice low and dangerous. Anyone with a problem can take it up with me. The threat was clear as day. Mrs. Pritchard broke the silence with a smile. Well, I think it's wonderful. You're part of this community now, Mrs. Hawkins, and we take care of our own." A few people in the crowd nodded in agreement. The sheriff scowled. "This isn't over, Cole." Cole stared him down. "It is, unless you have actual charges to bring." As the sheriff walked off and the crowd thinned, Amelia's heart stopped. A woman, dressed far too elegantly for this dusty town, was watching her with a cold, calculating smile. "Cole, we need to leave. Now." On the ride home, Amelia's words tumbled out. "That woman in the fancy dress." Cole's voice was grim. "She's been at the hotel for 2 days. Says she's looking for investments." Amelia's throat went tight. "She's lying. That's Victoria Rothschild, my father's wife. He knows exactly where I am." Back at the ranch, Amelia told him everything. She told him how Victoria married her father for his money and turned him against his own daughter. She revealed their cruel plan to have her locked away in an asylum, just to steal her inheritance. "The mail-order bride plan was my only way out," she said, her voice breaking. "A place they'd never look." Cole was quiet for a long moment. "He can't make you go back," he finally said. "You're my wife now." She shook her head. "You don't understand. He's a judge. He can make the law say anything he wants." Cole's voice was like iron. "Your stepmother coming here changes nothing. We stick to the plan. You're my wife. If they want you, they have to come through me first." "You cannot fight a federal judge," she whispered, her fear a cold knot in her stomach. "Watch me," he said. That night, sleep was impossible. In just 2 weeks, she had seen the real Cole Hawkins. He was a kind and patient man, and she knew she had just put him in terrible danger. His voice came from the other room, startling her. "I can hear you thinking all the way from out here." "I am sorry. Did I wake you?" "I was not asleep." His voice came from the dark. "Are you all right?" "No." "An honest answer," he said, his silhouette appearing in the doorway. "She is here because of me," Amelia whispered, talking about Victoria. "And you are here because I let you stay," Cole countered. "Seems to me there is enough blame to go around. You ran, I helped, and your father is a snake. So we prepare." "Prepare how?" He stepped into the moonlight, his face all sharp angles. "Tomorrow, I am teaching you how to shoot. A man like your father will do worse than lock you up, and I ain't always going to be here to stop him." He met her eyes. "You have to learn how to stand up for yourself." Amelia's heart hammered against her ribs. "I do not know if I can." "You can," he said, his voice softening. "You're a survivor, Amelia. You just need to believe it." She looked at him, and his belief in her was so strong it almost hurt. She found herself nodding. "All right," she whispered. "Show me." He promised he would, adding, "Whatever happens with Victoria, you are not facing it alone. Understand?" For the first time, Amelia felt a flicker of hope. The pistol felt all wrong in her hands, heavy and cold. It was a tool for taking life, not saving one. "You are holding it like a snake," Cole said gently from behind her in the clearing. "Loosen up." "I am trying." He stepped closer, adjusting her stance with a firm but gentle touch. "Breathe. The gun is not the enemy. Your fear is." She took a breath. The row of old tin cans on a log seemed a mile away. "Now squeeze the trigger, do not pull it." The gunshot echoed, and the kick almost sent her stumbling. The bullet missed by a country mile. "Again," he said. She missed, and missed again. After the 10th shot, she wanted to throw the pistol in the creek. "I cannot do this." "You are doing it," he corrected. "I am failing." "You are learning," Cole said, reloading the gun. "Failing is how you learn. You think I hit my target the first time?" He chuckled. "I shot my own foot. Could not walk right for a month. My father laughed so hard he nearly choked." She stared at him, surprised. "Everyone starts somewhere," he said. The ones who make it are the ones who get back up after they fall. She looked at the gun, then at the cans. One more time. That is the spirit. Those simple words warmed her more than the morning sun. She raised the pistol, took a steady breath, and fired. A can flew off the log. Cole's hand landed on her shoulder. There you go. By the end of the week, she could hit 4 of the 6 cans and reload without fumbling. You are a natural, Cole told her as she hit 5 in a row. You learn fast because you know you have to, he said, watching her. That is what will keep you safe. She lowered the gun. Can I ask you something? Why did you really agree to marry me? Cole was quiet for a moment. You remind me of my sister. Amelia's breath hitched. I did not know you had a sister. I do not. Not anymore, he said, his jaw tight. A fever took her 10 years ago. I was away working cattle. By the time I got home, it was too late. He looked at Amelia. She was brave, just like you. I helped you because when you stood in front of my horse, you were not asking for a handout. You were asking for a chance. I saw her in you, and I was not going to fail my family a second time. Before she could respond, they heard a horse approaching at a gallop. It was Dr. Chen, and he looked panicked. Cole, we have a big problem. He jumped off his horse, breathing hard. Victoria went to the sheriff. She has papers from back east, federal warrants claiming Amelia stole over $10,000 in jewelry. Amelia felt the world spin. That is a lie. I know, the doctor said, but the papers look official. The sheriff has to arrest you by sundown, or they will arrest Cole for harboring a fugitive. Let them try, Cole said, his voice pure ice. They will not have to try too hard, a cold voice said from the path. Victoria rode toward them, flanked by 2 men wearing United States Marshal badges. Her smile was a cruel slash. Hello, Amelia. It seems you have been a very busy girl, stealing, running away, marrying this rough character. She turned to the marshals. Gentlemen, as you can see, my stepdaughter is clearly unwell. The fever she had last year affected her mind. We need to take her back to Philadelphia for proper care. One of the marshals stepped forward. Ma'am, you need to come with us. She is not going anywhere, Cole said, moving between them. Your federal papers mean nothing here. This is Colorado territory, and you need a local warrant. The marshal's hand drifted toward his gun. Are you threatening us? I am stating a fact, Cole replied. Victoria laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Oh, Amelia, you poor fool. My husband does not want you back. She leaned forward in her saddle, her voice dropping to a vicious whisper. He wants you gone for good. Victoria sneered. Tell me, Mr. Hawkins, what did my stepdaughter say about her powerful family, about the judges and politicians who write the very laws you follow? She held up a document. This here is an order signed by 3 judges. It overrides any local law. You hand her over, or you will be arrested for obstruction. She paused, letting the threat hang in the air. Or, Amelia comes with us and you walk away from all this trouble. Amelia felt Cole tense up beside her. For a terrible second, she thought he might agree. Then he spoke. I have a counteroffer. You leave my land right now. And you tell Judge Rothschild he can come get his daughter himself because I am not handing her over to hired muscle. Victoria's smile disappeared completely. You are making a big mistake. That would not be my first. Cole's voice was low and dangerous. Now get off my property. The marshal with the scar went for his pistol, but Dr. Chen was quicker. He fired a single warning shot into the sky. Before another move could be made, Cole's own gun was out, aimed steady at Victoria. The next person who draws a weapon dies, he said calmly, starting with you. Victoria's face paled. This is not over. I know. My husband will ruin you. He can sure try. Cole did not lower his pistol. Now leave. Victoria pulled her horse around and rode off, her marshals right behind her. That was a fool's move, Dr. Chen said, holstering his weapon. Yeah, Cole said, finally lowering his gun. But it bought us some time. Time for what? To figure out a way to fight back. He looked at Amelia. You said your father is a federal judge. That means he has enemies. We find those folks and we make them our friends. Sam, I need you to send telegraphs. Find out who in Philadelphia hates Judge Rothschild enough to help. Cole, that is a long shot, Dr. Chen warned. Then we give them a better reason, Cole stated. We prove your father and Victoria are the real criminals. How? Amelia asked. All the proof is back in Philadelphia. Then we make them bring it to us. Cole started pacing. Your mother left you an inheritance. How much was it? Over $50,000, and all of it should have been yours. My father stole it. We can prove he embezzled his own daughter's money. We can bring him down. So how are we going to prove it? Amelia asked. Cole stopped his restless pacing. We lay a trap. We let him think he's won. When he gets to gloating, we get a record of it. It was a wild, dangerous plan. But it was the only one they had. That night, Amelia wrote letter after letter by lamplight to old friends and family back in Philadelphia. She wrote until her fingers ached. Across the table, Cole cleaned his guns with a quiet focus. The silence between them was heavy. You ought to get some sleep, Cole finally said. There's a long fight ahead of us. She put her pen down and truly looked at him, this stranger risking everything for her. Why are you doing this? It would be so much easier to just let them take me. Easier ain't always right. You barely know me. I know enough. He set down the pistol he was cleaning. I know you're brave and I know you're strong. And I know that if I let them haul you away, I'd spend the rest of my days wondering. I'm tired of wondering about folks I should have saved. Amelia's throat felt tight. Cole, he looked away. Just get some sleep. We'll face this tomorrow. She wanted to tell him he owed her nothing, but she couldn't stand the thought of being alone in the dark. Can I ask you something? She said softly. Always. When you called me your girl at target practice, she began, did you mean it? Cole went very still. What do you think? She stood and walked right up to him. I think this arrangement of ours isn't just for show anymore. He looked up at her. No, it ain't. Then what is it? I don't know. His voice was rough. But I know I care what happens to you, and that scares the hell out of me. Amelia reached out and touched his face. You scare me too, she whispered. Good. He stood up and suddenly they were so close she could feel the warmth from his body. Fear means you're paying attention. To what? To this. And then he kissed her. It was not a gentle kiss. It was hard and fierce, full of all the unspoken words between them. She kissed him back like a woman who had been drowning. When they broke apart, breathing hard, he rested his forehead on hers. Well, that complicates things, he said. Everything is already complicated. Fair point, he pulled back a little. We should still talk about this. Tomorrow, she insisted, her hand still balled up in his shirt. Tonight? Can we just be? Yeah. He nodded, pulling her into a real embrace. She laid her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. A storm was coming, she could feel it. But in his arms, for just a moment, she felt safe. Morning arrived much too soon. Amelia woke up alone in her bed, with sunshine pouring in the window and the smell of bacon cooking. She found Cole in the kitchen, flipping eggs as if their world had not shifted on its axis last night. Morning, he said. Morning, she replied, pouring some coffee. We need to talk about last night. We do, he agreed. But first we've got company on the way. Her stomach sank. Victoria? Nope. Mrs. Pritchard and about half the church ladies, from the looks of that dust cloud I saw 20 minutes ago. He finally turned, and his eyes were warm. Word got out about yesterday. They're coming to show their support. Sure enough, 10 minutes later, a wagon pulled up packed with 6 women. Mrs. Pritchard marched to the door like a general. We brought food, she announced, and we are not leaving until every gossip in 3 counties knows this town stands with you. Amelia's eyes burned with sudden tears. Mrs. Pritchard, you don't have to do this. Yes, child, we do. That Victoria woman was in town yesterday, bragging about dragging you back to Philadelphia in chains. We don't let city folk push our own around. She bustled inside and started unloading baskets. Now there's a barn raising for the Johnsons next week. You're both coming. That's not a question. Cole and Amelia looked at each other, and for the first time in days, they both laughed. The church ladies stayed for 3 hours. By the time they left, the kitchen was full of food, and the house smelled like hope. That woman is terrifying, Cole said as the wagon disappeared. I'd rather face outlaws than get on her bad side. She likes you. She tolerates me, he corrected, inspecting an apple pie. But just as Amelia was about to reply, she saw a rider coming. This time it was worse. It was Sheriff Garrett, and he had 4 deputies with him. Stay inside, Cole ordered, his hand going to his gun. No, Amelia said, stepping right beside him. We're in this together. Garrett swung down from his horse, looking grim. Cole, we need to talk. Official. Then talk. The judge sent another telegram. If you don't hand over his daughter by sunrise tomorrow, he's sending federal agents to arrest you both. He ain't bluffing, Cole. Let them come, Cole said, his voice like flint. Damn it, Cole, this ain't a game, Garrett yelled. They'll bring 20 men. Then I'll have to be faster. You can't outdraw 20 men. Watch me. A young deputy stepped forward, looking nervous. Please, sir, it's not worth dying for. Just let her go. Before Cole could answer, Amelia spoke. What's your name, deputy? She asked. Michael, ma'am. Michael Patterson. And how old are you, Michael? 20. Got family? He nodded. A mother and 2 sisters. And if a powerful man accused your sister of a crime she didn't commit, Amelia's voice was quiet but steady, and threatened to throw her in an asylum to rot, would you tell her it wasn't worth fighting for? Michael's face turned red. Ma'am, that's different. No, it's not. It is exactly the same, she said, looking at each of them. My father is a liar, and my stepmother is a thief. If you help them, you are no better than they are. We're just following orders, one of them mumbled. Then you're cowards, Amelia stated plainly. Garrett's jaw was tight. Mrs. Hawkins, I understand you are upset. Upset? She laughed, a bitter sound. Sheriff, I am terrified, because I know when I go back, I will simply disappear. So, if you plan to arrest me, then do it. But do not pretend you are doing it for justice. You are doing it because it is easier than standing up to a powerful man. A painful silence fell over the yard. Then Michael, the young deputy, spoke up. Sheriff, what if she's telling the truth? It doesn't matter, Garrett said, but his own voice shook. Orders are orders. Well, it sure does matter. Dr. Chen came riding in hot, his face all red. I just heard back on my telegrams. Turns out Judge Rothschild has been under investigation for the last 6 months for some mighty suspicious financial dealings. The district attorney in Philadelphia is building a case against him. When I told some lawyers there about Amelia's trouble, they said they'd been waiting for someone with proof of his corruption. Dr. Chen held up a folder. I have statements right here showing Amelia's mother left her over $60,000. None of it ever went to Amelia, even though the will said she got everything. It proves he stole from his own girl, which makes every charge against her look mighty crooked. He moved the money to Victoria's accounts but got greedy and left a paper trail a fool could follow. Amelia felt her knees go weak. You can prove it? I can prove enough to make any honest judge throw this whole thing out. This does not change a thing, Garrett said, but he did not sound so sure anymore. Until those warrants are gone, I have to uphold the law. Cole stepped forward. And Colorado law says you need a good reason to arrest somebody. Do you have a good reason, Sheriff, or just orders from a thief about to get arrested himself? Garrett looked at his men, but they stayed quiet. I need to think on this. Think fast, Cole told him, because if anyone comes onto my land tomorrow, there is going to be trouble. You have got 24 hours. After they rode off, Amelia finally let out a breath. Is it all real? She asked Dr. Chen. It is. Another family came forward about the judge stealing from their estate, and that started it all. He handed her the folder. Your mother's inheritance is a big piece of the puzzle. She opened it with trembling hands and saw the proof. How long have you been doing this? She whispered. Since the day you told me your story, Dr. Chen said with a gentle smile. I know a sickness when I see one, and I was not about to let you face it by yourself. Cole looked at the doctor like he had just parted the sea. Sam, thank you, he said softly. But we are not out of the woods yet. Victoria is still here, and she is dangerous. Just then, thunder rumbled deep in the distance. Cole looked up at the dark clouds piling over the mountains. A storm is coming, a big one. Those clouds are moving all wrong, Dr. Chen noted. They are coming down from the high country too fast. Cole was already heading for the barn. That means the river is going to rise. I need to check the upper ridge. I am going with you, Amelia said, grabbing her saddle. We are in this together, she reminded him. That means I do not hide while you ride into danger. Fine, Cole sighed. You will probably get us both killed, but at least we will die together. They rode out as the storm broke, and the rain began to pour. When they reached the ridge, Amelia's heart stopped. The river was already a raging monster, swollen and angry. The whole snowpack must be melting at once, Cole breathed. I have never seen it this high, this fast. We have to warn the town now. They raced down the mountain, barely able to see through the sheets of rain. Thunder knew the way, following Cole's horse through the dark like a ghost. They reached Redwood Valley just as the first wave of water hit Main Street. People were screaming and running for high ground. Cole leaped from his horse. Garrett! The river is breaking! We have got maybe an hour before the whole valley is underwater! Garrett ran out, his face turning white as a sheet. We need to get everyone to the church. It is the highest ground. Cole was already moving. Ring the bell! Get every man you can! We have to move now! Chaos erupted. Cole and Amelia split up, pounding on doors, dragging people from buildings as the water surged around their ankles, then their knees. The streets turned into churning rivers in minutes. Amelia found Mrs. Pritchard trying to save books from the schoolhouse. Leave it, Amelia yelled, pulling her away. It is not worth your life. They scrambled for higher ground together. Across town, Cole heard screams coming from the collapsed boarding house. He plunged into the waist-deep water without a second thought, tearing at the debris. Dr. Chen appeared beside him. Together they cleared an opening and saw 3 women and a boy huddled inside as the water rose around them. They pulled the first 2 women and the boy out to safety. But as Cole reached for the last woman, the building groaned and shifted. He dove back in, grabbing her hand, just as a heavy beam struck his shoulder. He pulled with all his might, and they both tumbled backward into the flood, just as the rest of the building gave way. Dr. Chen helped them to the bank. The next hour was a nightmare of roaring water and desperate rescues. Cole pulled a family of 5 from their home. Amelia guided 2 children down from a rooftop. They worked until their bodies shook from cold and exhaustion. By the time they led the last folks to the church, the lower valley was gone, swallowed by the flood. But every single person was alive. Cole leaned against the church wall, covered in mud and blood. Amelia sank down beside him. We did it, she whispered, taking his hand. We saved them. No. It was Sheriff Garrett's voice. He looked straight at Cole. You saved them. Cole turned away, his expression hard to read. She is right. You saved all of us. While we stood there, you were pulling people from the wreckage. Half this town would be gone without you. Mrs. Patterson, holding her daughters tight, stepped forward with tears on her face. Mr. Hawkins, we are so sorry for how we treated you. We were cowards, but you are a hero. If anyone comes to arrest you or your wife, they have to come through this whole town first. That is right, another voice called out. We stand with you. From now on, anyone who comes for the Hawkins family comes for all of us. One by one, the townspeople nodded, their voices joining in agreement. And Cole Hawkins, the man they had feared, found himself surrounded by neighbors. The church doors blew open, and in stormed a drenched and muddy Victoria. The 2 sorry-looking marshals trailed her. How sweet, she sneered. The monster is playing hero. Pointing at Amelia, she said, The law does not care. We are taking that woman tonight. Like hell you are, Michael Patterson said, his hand dropping to his gun. She stays. The marshal shot back. You are a deputy sworn to the law. Michael's voice was firm. I am sworn to justice, and this is not it. As the marshal reached for his own weapon, other men in the room stood up ready for a fight. Y'all are crazy, Victoria gasped. Cole stepped up. Maybe so, but we are crazy together. Now you can try and take my wife, which will start a war you cannot win, or you can leave. The marshal sized up the room full of determined faces and holstered his weapon. We were paid to do a job, not to get ourselves killed, he told Victoria before turning to leave. Furious, Victoria glared at Amelia. You think you have won? My husband will ruin every last one of you. Amelia simply replied, Let him try. After Victoria stormed out, the building shook from the slammed door. The silence was broken by Mrs. Pritchard, who began to clap. Soon the entire church was filled with applause. In that moment, surrounded by their town, Cole and Amelia knew their arrangement had become real. For 3 long days, the storm raged while the whole town sheltered together with Cole and Amelia leading them. Everyone knew Victoria would be back. When the rain finally stopped, the town was in ruins, but every person was safe. Mrs. Pritchard looked over the destruction and declared, We will rebuild. Cole, tired but steady, stood with her. You will not have to do it alone. I have supplies at the ranch. She smiled. Cole, you have already done so much. He looked at her, then glanced toward Amelia. This is my town now, too. Mrs. Pritchard saw him looking at Amelia. She is good for you, Cole. You fought for her from the beginning, so do not stop now. Just then, Sheriff Garrett ran up, waving a telegram. You need to see this. Cole read it, his eyes wide with shock. Is this real? It surely is, Garrett beamed. Judge Rothschild was arrested. The warrant for Amelia is gone. She is a free woman. Cole let out a long breath. She is free. Garrett then looked serious. Cole, I owe you both an apology. I should have believed her. Cole cut him off. You were just doing your job, Sheriff. Garrett offered a handshake. I'm glad I was wrong about you two. Cole took it and laughed, feeling a sense of rightness return to the world. Where is Amelia? He asked, already turning to find her. He located her helping an old man in the church. The look on Cole's face made her stop. What is it? He gently pulled her aside and gave her the telegram. Read this. Amelia read it, her face turning pale. He was arrested? Yes, Cole confirmed. And the charges? They are all gone, he said, his own hands trembling a little. Amelia, you are free. It is all over. She looked from the paper to his face, tears beginning to fall. I am free, she whispered, then broke down sobbing against his chest. Cole held her tight, not caring who saw. This woman had been through hell and earned her tears. When she finally looked up, he told her, Now you get to decide what you want. You are not bound by fear or by me. She looked stunned. You think I would leave? He swallowed hard. You came here out of desperation. If you want to leave this ranch and a man who does not know how to make anyone happy, I will understand. She grabbed his face. Cole Hawkins, you are the biggest fool I have ever known. Did you really think I stayed only because I had no other choice? I stayed for you, Cole. I fell in love with you, and I am not going anywhere. Cole was speechless. You love me? Of course I love you, you fool. I have been trying to tell you, but you kept trying to be noble. She said fiercely, I choose you. I choose this life. I choose being your wife, for real. He kissed her right there in front of the whole town. When they parted, he whispered, I love you too. Amelia smiled through her tears. Then we are married for real this time. No backing out. No backing out, Cole agreed as the townspeople began to cheer. But their celebration was cut short by the sound of a horse thundering into town. A rider approached at a dead run, his horse lathered and tired. The man stumbled toward them, and when Amelia saw his face, she felt a chill. It was Thomas Brennan, the man who had abandoned her. "Amelia!" he yelled. "Thank God!" Cole moved right in front of her, his hand resting on his gun. "You have 5 seconds to explain yourself." "Wait, please," Thomas begged, his hands up. "I did not leave her. I was arrested. Victoria Rothschild paid off a sheriff to lock me up on fake charges. By the time I got out, Amelia was gone. I have been looking for you everywhere, trying to make things right." "Why would I believe you?" Amelia asked, her voice shaking. "Because I have this." Thomas pulled out a leather pouch. "Every last dollar Victoria took from you, plus interest. I got it back. It is all in here." "She paid me to disappear," Thomas admitted, "laughed about running you off. But she paid me with a bank draft. When I threatened to expose her, she gave me more money to stay away for good." He held out the pouch again. "But I could not do it. You deserved better. I came to give you what is yours." Sheriff Garrett opened the pouch. "It is real," he confirmed. "At least $2,000 in here." Amelia's legs felt weak. "I do not understand," she whispered. "Why help me now?" Thomas looked at her with pure regret. "I was supposed to give you a new life, and I let that woman buy me off." "The money was not what I was promised," Amelia said softly. "A fresh start was. And I got it, just not with you." She took hold of Cole's hand. "Take good care of her," Thomas said to Cole, his voice filled with acceptance. "I know," Cole replied, the anger gone from his voice. Thomas turned to leave, but Amelia stopped him. "Thank you," she said. "It took courage to come back here." "Not as much as it took for you to stand up for yourself," he replied with a sad smile. Then he rode away, leaving the money and a finished story behind him. Sheriff Garrett handed the pouch to Amelia. "What do you want me to do with this?" She looked at Cole, then at her ruined town. "Give it to Mrs. Pritchard for the rebuilding," Amelia said, her voice strong. "For a new school, for supplies, for whatever this town needs. I have everything I came here for." Mrs. Pritchard hugged her tightly. "Welcome home to Redwood Valley, dear." The town started buzzing with plans, but Amelia could only see Cole. He was looking at her with an intensity that took her breath away. "What is it?" she asked softly. He got straight to the point. "Marry me." She let out a small laugh. "Honey, we are already married." He shook his head, taking her hands. "We did that out of need. This time I want to do it right. I want to stand before this whole town and tell everyone that I choose you, Amelia. Not because I had to, but because I love you." Tears welled in her eyes when he asked, "Will you marry me for real this time?" Her answer was immediate and joyful. "Yes. 1,000 times, yes." As he kissed her, the crowd's cheers were thunderous. In the 2 months that followed, everyone in Redwood Valley worked together. They cleared the damage and raised new buildings, rebuilding their lives side by side. During those hard weeks of rebuilding, Cole and Amelia became just folks, neighbors who worked shoulder to shoulder with everyone else. The town quit seeing a monster and started seeing the man. They saw Cole, who worked till he dropped and helped anyone who needed it. They saw Amelia, who gave her fortune and her heart to bring Redwood Valley back to life. So, when Mrs. Pritchard announced a town celebration, everyone figured they had it coming. But she had a little secret, a plan her and a few others cooked up special. The day of the party was picture perfect, the kind of day that feels like a blessing. Amelia and Cole were standing near the back of the new church when Mrs. Pritchard came to fetch them. She led them to a small room where Dr. Chen was waiting, smiling from ear to ear. "What is going on?" Amelia asked. "Well," Mrs. Pritchard said, "y'all are getting married, properly this time." She pulled a beautiful white dress from an old trunk. "This was my daughter's. She'd want you to have it." Amelia's eyes welled up. Mrs. Pritchard just smiled. "This whole party is for you. A proper wedding. Cole's been in on it the whole time. Amelia whipped around to look at Cole. You knew? It was my idea, he admitted with a sheepish grin. You deserved a real wedding from the start. She couldn't even think about being mad when she saw the love in his eyes. 15 minutes later, Amelia stood at the church doors, a vision in that white dress. The whole town was packed inside, waiting. At the front stood Cole Hawkins, looking nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. But when he saw her, his whole face lit up, and it was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. As she walked down that aisle, she saw the faces of the people who had become their family. The old preacher who survived the flood cleared his throat. Friends, we are here to see two people who came together in darkness and found the light. They taught us how to stand for something, and now they're going to teach us how to love. When it was his turn, Cole took Amelia's hands. Amelia, you are the bravest, kindest, and most stubborn woman I have ever met. The crowd chuckled. You took a broken man and showed him there was still good in the world. I love you, and I'll spend my life trying to be the man you deserve. Amelia was crying now. Cole, you taught me how to save myself. You showed me I was worth fighting for, and now I cannot imagine my life without you. I choose you today, tomorrow, and forever. The preacher beamed. Then I pronounce you husband and wife. Again. Cole, you can kiss your bride for real this time. And he did. He kissed her like she was the first drop of rain after a long drought. The whole church roared with joy. When they finally parted, Cole whispered, Thank you. For what? She asked. For being brave enough to stop my horse. Amelia gently touched his cheek. You were never a monster, Cole. You were just a man waiting for someone to see the real you. They walked down that aisle as true partners who had earned their love. The whole town of Redwood Valley celebrated with them until the sun went down, sharing stories of how they had all rebuilt their lives together. Watching the party from the church steps, Cole asked her, Are you happy? More than I ever dreamed, she answered, leaning against him. And you? He smiled. I did not know this kind of happy existed. You are stuck with me for good now. That is a promise, he whispered back, as the last light of day settled over their town. Their story did not truly begin with a desperate bargain on Main Street. It started the moment they decided facing fear together was better than being alone. The woman who asked the most feared cowboy in the West to marry her did not just save herself. She saved him, and she reminded an entire town what it meant to stand together. Cole Hawkins, feared for 5 long years, proved that sometimes the fella everyone is scared of is just a hero waiting for a chance. Together, they turned a lie into a family, and desperation into a life worth living. They taught everyone that the bravest thing you can do is ask for help and love someone with all your heart. This content was carefully researched, developed, and manually edited by our team to deliver meaningful stories with valuable life lessons. Every narrative is crafted to entertain, inspire, and empower our audience. We believe that great stories can change lives, and we are committed to bringing you content that matters. Thank you for being part of our community.